Hi, this is Henry in the editing booth here. Just before we get started with this episode, Corey and I would like to make a couple of things clear about some of the stuff we talk about. I'm just going to be reading what Corey has written from Twitter verbatim, just to explain what's up. In this episode, we talk about Eddie Dempsey a bit and why putting stock in a single leader as the face of a movement is bound to backfire. I did mention his racism, but should have called it out more strongly. I was also potentially confused about when he deleted his social medias. I thought it was when he was saying some transphobic stuff, but it looks as though it was when he is instead saying some racist stuff. The problem with trying to figure this out retroactively. Either way, I'd like to say it clearly now, he is a danger whose ideas have long been an impediment to solidarity. He shouldn't be in a prominent position if he isn't capable of representing all RMT members. He's not the only eloquent speaker they can dig out, I'm sure. So yeah, just getting that said out of the way first. Hope you're enjoying this week's episode. Hello and welcome to Unions in the UK, a podcast about unions in the UK. My name is Henry, pronouns they, them, and I'm here with...
I'm Corey, my pronouns are she, her.
We're here today what are we talking about today, Corey?
So today I want to give a sort of brief overview of who the Trades Union Congress are in the UK and what that means for people in trade unions and in union activism and organising, and yeah.
Very cool. I believe you had some Twitter beef to get off your chest first before we get into anything.
Yeah. I'm really annoyed that I'm doing this because I don't want to be on a podcast just talking about Twitter beef.
No, we're a Twitter beef podcast now, it's fine. We're a drama podcast. We're like Keemstar or whatever his balls is.
Yeah, we're just gonna find super niche union drama. I cannot wait to talk about how Beverly voted in the indicative ballot and why that makes her ontologically evil.
I see. I got it.
No, so this is related to the main topic today, but I just wanted to have a bit of a sidebar, a little pre thing on
a show before the show.
Yeah. A show before the show on today's leftist Twitter discourse, because it's once again about a official from the RMT, that's the train union that's gone on strike quite a bit and has had quite a high profile recently. One of their officials, Eddie Dempsey, is once again the centre of discourse because some of the worst people on earth have found a speech he made in 2019 and are reposting it. It was controversial at the time. People were annoyed at Eddie at the time. Like, people pulled out of events that Eddie was speaking at because of this speech, as well as, some other stuff. But they found it and they're spreading it around again. And it seems as though this is a bit of a wedge issue being leveraged by the centre and the right to break up support for the strikes, sort of like how in the 80s when people would point out, oh, Arthur Scargill did this. It's very much like if this prick didn't exist, someone would have to invent him kind of deal, because it gives the Liberals and the right
some pearls to clutch.
Yeah, it gives them an excuse to not support the strikes because they are performatively too stupid to understand that the RMT isn't this one guy with a working class accent. The RMT
No,
is
it's the union boss man.
Yeah.
It is one union boss man.
Yeah.
He's a big, funny, bald man.
So, yeah, to start off with, Eddie Dempsey being a prick is absolutely no reason to not support the strikes. Like, the strikes that the RMT are taking part in deserve our unconditional support as something that they need to do to improve their working conditions. But also, on the flip side, there are parts of the left, including people whose work and activism I generally respect, who are trying to do the exact opposite and basically saying that he's God's perfect anti-fascist and he's never done anything wrong, and how dare anyone come for him. And those people are also idiots. That's stupid. not to both sides this.
It sounds like you're both siding and taking the center ground on this one, Corey. What's that about?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
You're a centrist.
Yeah. So I think it might be illustrative to talk about like why Eddie hasn't been able to speak up for himself as part of this discourse that's been going around on Twitter. It's because he deleted his Twitter a couple of years ago.
Oh no!
After sharing some stuff that seemed to be transphobic. Seemed to be.
No, I'm sure it can't be that transphobic. What did it say? Oh Christ! Let's not parrot those ideas. Actually.
Yeah. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but it is some.
But
it was
sucked.
It was at the time some basic transphobe talking points, which there was some backlash on. This isn't the only thing Eddie has had some backlash on. Eddie has had backlash on defending someone who was accused of domestic violence when their partner came out to say this person had abused me. The speech in 2019 that, again, some of the worst people on earth are sharing, he did... his speech there was... If you were to interpret it in the best faith possible, absolutely idiotic. Like, absolutely just ridiculous. Because his whole thing is... in his speech, he's trying to identify that among supporters of Tommy Robinson specifically, there is a lingering sort of class resentment against the middle classes who have largely ignored working class problems. Which, is a not entirely unfair view of some of the problems there. However, people rightfully pointed out that the working class is not just made up of white guys who like Tommy Robinson. The working class is queer. The working class is people of colour. The working class is dedicated anti-fascists. People who don't get on with Tommy Robinson and his supporters. And the way Eddie's speech was structured sort of doesn't seem to give what it feels like, the appropriate weight to the fact that these bigots aren't the only part of the working class. They're not even the majority of the working class. They're just a group that's given outsized influence in the discourse because it serves the class interests of the right wing to bring it up that these people are working class.
An example of this is the fucking the not to get into Labour discourse, but like the red wall voter.
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. It's this whole idea that the working class is white, racist, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and that like his speech unfortunately played into a lot of those tropes. And the thing is, with his other pattern of behaviour, I can't say for certain that it's bad faith to interpret that was an accident. That wasn't an accident, sorry. I don't think you can say, with everything else Eddie has had going on, that was an accident because of this other shit that he's pulled. So the point of this beef and how it sort of ties into the Trade Union Congress, which is the main topic of today, is that both the people that I want to speak to here, the people on the left who are trying to lionize him because he's currently the victim of the right wing attempting to strike break effectively, because Eddie is the target of this, the left wing are lionizing him. You don't have to. The strike is not one guy putting your stock in an individual, or even a organization that's going to come along, take you by the hand and make everything okay and do the hard work for you. And they're going to say all the points on TV that you need to be said and everything like that. It's always going to disappoint you. It's always going to backfire. Because individuals are fallible, and there's a structural pressure on organizations to keep the status quo. I do also want to point out that a lot of queer and people of colour, working class people and leftists pointed out back in July, the last time the Eddie Dempsey discourse came around, that the RMT putting Eddie up at the front was a bad idea because all of this was going to come out at some point as an attempt to break the strike. It's sort of a catch-22 when you let the right wing dictate the terms of engagement like this, because either you have to do what a lot of people are doing and stand up for Eddie, which then breaks the strike because all the people of colour, all the queer people, all the women who are not super on board with Eddie and his ideas, suddenly you are disposable to them, and that's bad, and that breaks the strike. Or you've put all of your stock in this one person as one of your spokespeople, as one of your leaders, and now you've lost the mild popular support that you could have had because you've put forward this stupid person with ridiculous ideas. Yeah, this horrible goblin man. If only, Hen, and I'm asking this sincerely, I swear, if only there were some sort of well-spoken person who could get across the ideas of the trade union movement. But hear me out. They weren't a white guy with a history of divisive statements. If only that person existed.
As far as I'm aware, there's nobody that fits that description. So
exactly,
so you're dreaming.
So yeah, talking about the structural pressures on organisations to keep the status quo, let's talk about the Trades Union Congress.
Yeah, okay, so a bit about them. The Trade Union Congress is the central, is that right?
Yeah, they're like a central body for the trade unions.
To represent the trade unions. There's like, I don't know how many affiliated unions with them.
So basically, it varies year to year because some unions, especially the smaller ones, will like opt in and then opt out as their members see fit. Yeah. It sort of switches between the 40s and the 80s number of unions.
Let's say around them. And generally they come together and push for specific policies and actions and to act as like a unified body. So
basically they've got this council, or like a general council of 56, which includes their general secretary, who is like the face of the organisation in the way that general secretaries tend to be of leftist organisations. They make the sort of month-to-month decisions. I have literally no idea who most of these 56 people are. honestly,
which is an interesting point.
yeah, like they're people nominated by their union to represent them at the trade union congress.
Yeah.
And this is just the central body. There are like branches of the trade union congress. Like Manchester has a trade union congress that works similar but is specific to Manchester issues, sort of thing. But like the central body, they have this general council of 56. The big unions get more members. Members are sort of distributed according to the number of members of the council are distributed according to the number of members that you have in your union. The big unions get like up to 10 members on the 56 council. Smaller unions sort of ballot for any remaining places.
So like boring shit like that.
Yeah. And they all of their big decisions in quotation marks are taken at like a yearly conference.
Yeah. To talk about like, so we kind of said who they are and how they kind of operate. They have done some good things for the working class of the UK. I've got 5 such achievements here. One of which I'm not so sure about is an achievement for the working class, but still.
I'm ready to hear it. Which number is it? Which number do you think is not a win?
So I've got 5 from the Wikipedia. So I'm not. I'm not looking at that link that you sent.
Yeah, I've got 5. I've got 5 direct from them.
There's the 1970 Equal Pay Act.
When?
Which. So that's a good one. That's good. Aces. There's the 1999 national minimum wage, which is like, okay, good, pretty good. It's not a bad one. There's now 1999 as a limit was placed on working hours for a health and safety measure.
Good.
Followed by a minimum holiday entitlement. Again, pretty good. 2007, the no smoking ban, like in public areas, whatever. Like I don't give a shit about that one.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a smoker, so I am in favour of not walking around.
Yeah.
Clouds of smoke. I don't know whether it's a win for the working classes though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I'm not a smoker myself either, but I don't give a shit. And then October 2011, agency workers gained the right to receive the same treatment as permanent staff carrying out the same work. Which I'm not 100% sure is the case in a lot of places, but
well,
the principle is set out.
So the one on the document that'll be in the show notes, that's from the trade union website, their Unions at Work pamphlet. So their 5 wins are the same, except they don't have the one about the agency workers. Instead, they have, in 1948, the NHS was created in part as a result of union campaigning, which, yeah, absolutely, that one's a win. Fair play.
That's a good, well done. Okay, so that again, that's a bit about the TUC. I guess the next thing to raise is, why do we care? Should we care? Who cares? Go on, Corey. I think you can start this one off.
I mean, I'll sort of ask a question to your question of like, how often do you interact with the TUC? Like, you're a union activist and an organizer in different unions. How often do you come into contact with the TUC?
When I was at a protest, I saw the Manchester TUC flag.
Yeah, that's about right. Now the TUC... go on.
And sometimes one of our councillors from our ward will post on Twitter sometimes.
No, we've already done the Twitter section of this episode. We're not going back.
Sorry, I'll try. I'll resist. There's some good beef there, though. So, So I guess that kind of raises that also important thing. You don't have to care. I guess you don't have to engage with them necessarily.
They do good things sort of broadly for the trade union movement in the UK. They have a high media profile, can keep unions in people's minds, which is good and useful.
Yeah, very cool.
They have a lot of power to put like pressure on Parliament to be less of a prick. But like the thing is, anything cool and good that they do is because your workplace is cool and good, basically. Because if you, as someone in a union, make something good happen where you work, and other people also do that where they work, eventually the Trades Union Congress sort of follows you. They don't lead us, we lead them. We have to lead them. They're not a vanguard party. No matter how many Trotsky, no matter how many Trotskyists have been elected to the Trade Union Congress, for...
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
I mean, there are genuinely a lot of Trotskyists in trade union organising, especially in sort of elected positions.
Oh, I just meant as a vanguard party.
Oh, right. Yeah. That would be
funny
something.
considering what we're about to talk about later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it, I mean, an example that we've put deliberately in the show notes. So you don't have to be a part of it or even engage with them whatsoever. IWGB, which is the Independent Workers of Great Britain, have done some pretty cool things surrounding delivery drivers getting some good wins, and they're not even affiliated with the TUC. So
yeah, they've been some of the most effective union organisers in the UK for a number of years. I think really the only thing that's come close for me that I've come into contact with has been since Sharon Graham took over Unite. And
girl boss, get a tattoo of her. Don't, please shut the fuck up. Before this, we were talking about like lionization of trade union officials or whatever you want to call them. And raised the idea of having a Mick Lynch tattoo, which I think made Corey a bit sick.
Yeah, well, the thing is, there is this tendency to take like trade union officials and like people who are high profile in the media, and make them a figure of worship almost. And I think it's a sickness. I genuinely think it's an illness to do that. Like all these people being like, "Oh, we should have Mick Lynch in government, and he should be leader of the Labour Party." No, shut the fuck up.
My ideal government would be Mick Lynch, Jess Phillips.
Oh, do not bring that list up to me.
I love it so much. Oh, and add on like Piers Morgan as well, because I've heard his name mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah,
so why not?
And that's the thing is like these people aren't necessarily the best people for these positions that they're being touted for. It's just people that other people can remember. Like it's just people they recognise, which again, sort of circling back to the issues around having problematic white guys be the only people in these prominent positions in unions, is that then they end up getting promoted to these actually influential positions. Like there is a problem there.
I think there is no problem, and Jess Phillips will be great at a dinner party. So
she's made such great friends with
right?
with Tories. She can talk across the divide, and she's
she can.
Presumably working class. And I'm hearing northern. I'm hearing she's from the north.
Fuck off.
She's from outside of London. That's the same thing.
She's from outside. That's the north. So yeah, sorry, we got off course a little bit. My mistake. I brought up the tweet. We mentioned like they can do some good stuff, and like they also have the capability of doing some not necessarily bad stuff, but just like like wet rag stuff. Just like so I'll just go right into it. The other day, they said, "Watch this space. We're about to drop a bomb. We're about to fucking do it, baby." And the comments underneath sent me into cardiac arrest for a bit. I was I was losing my mind a little bit because some of the people underneath were suggesting there was going to be a general strike announced, which
yeah, that was never going to happen. You absolute clowns!
It's so fucking because it betrays two things: one, that the TUC is that cool, and two, that the TUC kind of like is the boss of all unions that decides what all unions do. Like, I don't know, it's a bit of a goofball move. I don't know about you, but I think of everyone posting, including people I saw with hammer and sickles in their bio with police general strike, and I'm like, guys, be normal for 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
What did they? I can't even remember what they fucking announced. Was it a drive for fucking minimum wage? I can't remember.
It was a petition to the government for a rise to the national minimum wage up to £15 over the next few years. It might have been by 2026,
which is not good enough.
Yeah,
even were that implemented directly right now, this very second, like, even if it wasn't delayed for like 5 fucking years, it's just a bit of a wet white move.
Yeah, and like that's sort of the thing. Like I've read some books, Henry. I've read some theory. I've done some book learning, and like I was really sort of struck by read like the Left Book Club sent out a collection of essays from Rosa Luxemburg like a few months ago, and like even then when she was writing, like at the dawn of what we would consider the leftist movement, she was writing that the British trade unions were some of the oldest and most well-established working organisations like in Europe, and that because of this they were slower and sort of more resistant to any sort of radical action because they're almost part of the state at this point. They're part of the furniture. They're part of the status quo. And
so Rosa Luxemburg was like, you know, alive like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's talking about them being old because she's a recent one, right?
Yeah,
you're not suggesting that she was writing this, well, maybe like 100 years ago, and suggesting they were old even then. That seems pretty wild to me.
Yeah, she was born in 1871, and
okay.
And she was tweeting about how the British trade unions are old. Last week, just before.
Last week, she's still going.
Yeah, she's still posting. As we know about like 1800s leftist theorists, they love to post and they love linen. That's the two things.
That's their favourite things. They love them. God's sake. But yeah, like the fucking, as you were saying, TUC is very much part of the state at this point. Like it's how it works at this point for the UK.
It's been how it's worked for a while. Like honestly, like one of the things that have like Mick Lynch not too long ago was actually coming out. Like they were talking to him on the news, and he was like, "No, I'm not like a revolutionary. I don't want a revolution. I want to reform the system that we've got so that it works."
Come on, baby man.
And like, but that's the thing. Is like he's the leader of a trade union in the UK. He's someone who's so part of this establishment that the only thing that sort of makes sense for his material interests and for the material interests of every fucker around him is to reform the system. It's not a revolutionary it's not a revolutionary part of the state or of like a revolutionary part even of leftist organising. It's a reformist one, and that means that they tend to put forward these sort of shallow reforms unless there's the pressure to do something more revolutionary. And yeah, again, going back to like Rosa Luxemburg, she talked in Reform or Revolution about how we sort of need both. Every reform is part of an inevitable step towards the revolution. So even if you are like a revolutionary communist, if you are a revolutionary anarchist, whatever, you can't argue that these reforms are a bad thing, really. Only the sort of accelerationists do that, and they are ridiculous. Simply ridiculous people. People like
10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's the idea that you know, if the world ends tomorrow, we will revert to some sort of natural state of socialism overnight without really any work, basically. Like, it just pushing people towards desperation in order to make them more radical, and it's just not how it works. Ultimately, people will only sacrifice their comfort when there is no other real option, and by that point, a lot of the most vulnerable people have died.
Will be in trouble. Yes.
Like you can look at any struggle across the world, from basically any time. People don't just throw down because things are bad. People throw down because they've decided that they might as well go down on their own terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, just thinking about accelerationism got me onto thinking about post-sadism.
Oh, yeah.
now I'm waiting for... Is it post-sadism or post-sadism?
I've always said posadism.
So
but I can't speak
alien
to
overlords.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't speak to dolphins, so I don't know the actual pronunciation.
Okay. Well, it's okay because the aliens will sort us out. Once we nuke out each other to oblivion, the aliens will come over and pick the best and brightest into a glorious utopia.
Yep.
That's the official political stance of unions in the UK.
Yeah, is that aliens are our only hope.
Fuck off. That was to me, not you. So yeah, TUC weenies, but sometimes do nice things.
Yeah, and like sort of off the back of this petition, there was this weird thing where a lot of people, again on Twitter, because you know I spend a lot of my time online because I too am sick in the brain.
It's a good way of gauging the most extreme and insane. I don't like using the word extreme because it's often used to play out like the idea that there's one side versus the... I don't know. It's a silly word. I'm just gonna say silly dumb people.
They're just the absolute wildest takes that you didn't believe an actual person could have.
Yeah, and it's quite impressive that they were constructed and hold together as a thought. To begin with.
It's like going on Twitter is basically stress testing your own grasp on reality.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to make sure that you still see things in a rational sort of way, in a cohesive worldview, and you just need to, go onto the trending tab on Twitter and just see what the Cenobites are typing. Yeah. Anyway, people on Twitter were sort of spreading this idea that the Trade Union Congress is compromised, and the reason it's compromised is because the General Secretary, Francis O'Grady, has a
non-executive director of the Bank of England, right?
Yeah. She's got this position in the Bank of England, and people were sort of spreading the idea that means that the Trade Union Congress
was the start of the rot.
Yeah, and it's not. That's a conspiracy theory. That is ridiculous conspiratorial thinking that playing into thought patterns like that leads to some very, very ridiculous things that do tend to happen on the left, and by looking for those connections sort of retroactively like that leads, like I say, it's conspiratorial thinking, and it's just nonsense. What you need to do is understand that the Trade Union Congress is, again, a part of the British state, effectively. It's a part of the British society, of the UK society as it currently exists. And therefore, someone important in the Trade Union Congress gets a seat as a director on the board of the Bank of England. Before it was Francis O'Grady, it was Dave Prentice who was the general secretary of one union or another. So basically, there's always a high-ranking member of the TUC on this board, not because the board is there to compromise them, because they're part of what makes the British state work. It's part of why they're reformists, again, because they're part of this state, because they're part of the way society is built and functions. They want to reform it rather than tearing it down.
I'm going to do my quote, because I have to,
Mm-hmm.
because I did it before. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead. Disco Elysium, everyone play that game, please. Anyway, and it's a fair point. Like, it's the people like to point out, like, and I don't mean to sound, what's the word? Rude is the best word that comes to mind, and suggest that people are like fresh doe-eyed to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where they've just discovered the TUC and are like, wow, that's amazing. Oh no, but like this bad thing's happening. It must be new, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of that, but I don't want to suggest that that's all of it. But people should understand that, yeah, the TUC is part of the state, and it is not newly compromised. It is. There was no compromising that needed to be done.
Yeah, it's by its very nature, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And like, this is sort of the thing, again, to loop back to the discourse and back to Eddie. Individuals and organizations that you expect to lead you are always going to backfire. They're not gonna. You can't trust them to do that. You need to do the work yourself. As I've put in my little notes in advance of this episode, is you cannot outsource your own goddamn radicalism. If you think things should be better, you need to be doing it yourself and making sure the things you build are self-sufficient and self-sustaining and actually centered in the community that it's supposed to serve. Bureaucratizing activism and like basically creating this hierarchy where people most often down south in London, but I mean admittedly the trade union movement's a little bit better than other places for that, but still mostly these people down elsewhere in the country, separate to the struggles you are facing, are not going to save you. You need to make sure that your activism and your organising is grounded in your community and not giving away the power that you create to these people who are not part of that like, struggle.
People that like you would never even like meet or affect or have any connection to, sort of thing.
Yeah, and like that's not to say that you can't have like solidarity with the people
absolutely
that you don't meet and can't affect you. We need this broad solidarity, and like I think the problem is people only think that can work in this sort of hierarchical fashion. People think it can only work if there's like this big central body that, you know, hands down like the direction for the union kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be like that. You can just make the improvements that you need to make in your workplace,
and then they'll catch up with you.
Yeah, these Go
on. Sorry, I interrupted you twice.
No, I was literally just going to say, I think basically what you're saying, where, once you create a situation where they feel like they have to act in line with what you're doing, they'll do it. Like, that's part of what reformists do. That's part of how reformists judge what reforms can be done, by what people are willing to do. It's sometimes a little bit difficult to pass.
There's a little bit... I've got a thing in my head that I want to say, and it's only tangentially related, but it's in a sense when you're asking for something, if you want to get one of a thing, you ask for 10 times that thing. And that way, in negotiate... I might cut this. This is nonsense. Hang on. I had a thought, and it's because I got so disconnected from that thought in playing with this fucking metaphor, I lost the thought to begin with. What? So it can't have been related to it anyway. That's fine. Fuck it. It's dead.
I mean, maybe like you were going to talk about like how people, like the sort of reformist ideas of like how they judge what reforms they ask for.
Yes. Maybe, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, babe.
Do you want to finish?
No, fuck it. It's
okay. Like maybe they get the reforms, they come up with what reforms they're asking for by compromising with what they want in advance, and that's foolish. There's a really old quote that I quite like, that I cannot for the life of me remember where it's from, but it goes along the lines of, we're not asking for much, we only want the world.
I know that one as well.
Yeah, I just love that. I love when like leftist stuff gets so brazen about what it actually wants. There's none of this sort of hiding behind, oh, we think you'll give us this, we think we can win that. No, it's, we want this, we deserve this, this will be better. And I just, there's a lot to be said for me personally on how inspirational I find that versus the sort of milquetoast compromising that can sometimes come out of leftist spaces, because we are argumentative by our very natures, and we will argue ourselves down from our own points by...
And I think that is a good thing, but go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, we argue ourselves down from our own points by imagining the arguments other people would use against us.
I was just like, that always to me has been a good thing, that we're squabbling and like fucking like arguing about shit. The issue is like, a lot of people think of the left and want a unified, the left all doing the same thing, when I don't think it necessarily has to be everyone doing the one same thing.
Yeah.
If everyone's doing their own things as well as squabbling, squabble as much as you like, but don't settle with squabbling, just do stuff. And as long as people are actually doing stuff, I think that is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, people squabbling is funny.
Squabbling is funny, but like I actually heard a very funny sort of summation of like how the left contrasts with the right in this sort of area, because like people sort of look at the right and think that they're very unified, and like the thing about the left is that we're constantly arguing and splitting off goals and doing things with or without people because of their political ideas, and we just sort of don't affiliate with certain ones and whatever. And the right is just a group of people who are all at various stages of fucking each other over.
Yes, yeah.
Like, they appear unified, but like it's fully, they're just ready to turn on each other at a moment's
Seconds
notice.
away from stabbing someone in the back, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
Christ.
But yeah.
To get back onto the topic, I mean, like, we've put a point in here. We were talking about general strike before with the petition that TUC put out and stuff. So to get back onto that, like, I'm going to talk to this point before I get onto what we've actually written down. General strike, cool and good, if we are ready for it.
Yep.
Because a lot of people who have done little to no preparation are on Twitter typing out "do general strike," press the big general strike button, please, please, please. And I understand the like the what's the word, the frustrations that are going into that. I get it. Like, you want a big thing to say fuck you to the state. Mr. State, go away, you're nasty, you're basic. But like, you need to prepare for a general strike. You can't just do it. Like, Corey, you can probably speak more to this because you have you brought up what maybe Capital can survive like 10 days before things start really getting fucky.
Yeah. I think people worked out that the capitalism has about 10 days worth of go before a strike properly causes it issues and starts to make it collapse. And like that seems to be about when they start panicking. I think people sort of reverse engineered that from some of the ways that the response to coronavirus happened, of basically understanding that this is how long they can do without us, and after that they're desperate to get us to start doing work again. And I think,
and what will they do when they're desperate? Anyway, so interesting. But yeah, like, once capital goes away, once those modes of production like collapses in on itself, like, you've got to have something ready to replace it. You've got to have something there that will feed people and will like handle all this shit that capital supposedly handles.
Not only that, but people need to be assured that they're going to be fine during those like 10 days when they're trying to make capital collapse. Like,
for sure, yes.
They need to know that they're going to be looked after even if everything goes back to normal, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, with that said, and I'm going to steal Corey's notes, if you want a general strike, make your workplace more radical, establish networks of mutual aid to be sure that you can sustain action like that and survive the collapse of capital if it comes to that. The TUC is not cool and sexy and will not do those things. The TUC is like will do like bare minimum nice things when they want, and dumbass stupid shit when they want. Also,
it's because they think, again, they think that that's all that's possible because they're compromising with themselves to decide, well, here's a win that we can actually get. When sorry, go on.
Because they're weenies. They're not going to act until they have, and until they think that they should. Basically, you need to make the steps first, and then they'll go, oh, this looks all right, and then follow along, as they would. It's not for them to decide when the things start happening. That's for us, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Did I butcher that? Did I bumble my way through that?
No.
Who knows?
I mean, I think you did really well. You did good.
Thank you. It's got awful sweaty. I'm in a roof room, so like we're converted attic space with windows, and it's sunny today, and it's a sauna in here, and I'm wearing all black because I'm a stupid idiot.
It's just, you gotta stay true to your goth roots, like
goth roots.
Yeah. You're very classically goth, I would say.
Classic. It's called post-punk, babe.
Oh,
Fuck
dear.
me.
But yeah,
Fuck
so
me.
with like the TUC and like saying that they're not going to act until you make them effectively, that's the thing, is like ultimately their power derives from their power that they do have, which they wield for good. They have it because of you, and there's actually a very interesting sort of example of that with this, with again going back to Unite and Sharon Graham. When their general secretary election was coming up, it was sort of seemingly between two guys, basically, where one guy looked like the heir apparent from the previous general secretary, and one guy was effectively from the right wing of the union. But Sharon sort of is on the left of the union, same as like this heir apparent guy was, and refused to back down from the race, refused to be like part of like a united slate or anything, because she said that, I've got all these sort of people in all these branches across the country who support me, and I have this really broad base of support, and just because you all seem to have done some backroom deal at the top of the union about who's the best candidate next, doesn't mean that you know what the people who are actually doing the work want. And she won, and she's done phenomenal work from there. Like, that's not to say, like, I think Howard Beckett was the other guy, not to say he's bad or anything, just that he seems to be the candidate decided from the top, and she was the candidate decided from the bottom, and she won because the power at the top comes from you. That's how you sort of affect the people at the top of the TUC, how you make them do this thing, is that you make sure that your branch is active. You make sure that your branch has cool and radical ideas and is trying to agitate for the 4-day working week and, more democratic control in the workplace, flexi leave, more support for people who need maternity. Yeah, sick pay for casualised staff, more stuff around maternity, around menopause, around things like that. You need to make sure that you're organising that there. You need to make sure that your area is strong and radical, because that's when you can push strong, radical people up the chain. Mm-hmm. And that's how the change happens, and why it's so important to remember that the power always comes from you. And yeah, I just wanted a sort of concrete example of like how when you develop power from below, you do get to change things at the top. It's not that the Trade Union Congress is going to resist that. It just needs to be something that you organise for, and don't expect a leader to come out of the woodwork and do for you. Things need to be organised and radical and pushed for.
It's a good thing too that she won that, because it would have made this tattoo that I have embarrassing otherwise. Beautifully put though, Corey. I was a bit in awe then, listening to you with your structured thoughts.
That is a bold description.
Structured, at least aesthetically. When they come out, they look structured. Inside they might not, but outside they definitely do.
It's like, it's just bees in here. It's just nothing but bees. I love bees. They're pretty good. Anyway, I think that's the end of the episode. Before I start talking about wildlife conservation.
Cool. Let's do the outro. So, as always, we have social medias. We're at medias, singular, plural. We have one. We have a Twitter. We have Unions in the UK and Twitter. That is just all one word, Unions in the UK. We also have an email if you want to get us, which is unionsintheuk@gmail.com. We seem to have been falling into some sort of a schedule. I mean, there's the idea forming around the idea of having a schedule. We've released on Thursdays. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but we did. And we're recording on Thursdays. So the plan is every other Thursday, I assume.
Yeah,
that seems right.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
seems
We've
right.
both got other stuff to do, and this is this is difficult sometimes to find time for around other things. So every other week.
I was going to say, imagine releasing every week. I'd fucking I'd die. Okay, yeah. So I didn't mention this in the previous part, but the music that you hear at the start and end of each episode is a remix of Solidarity Forever by the Bandcamp YouTuber and Instagram user Intellectual Darkwave. They give us direct permission to use it and then ask for a link to our first episode. And so if you're listening, thank you.
Did we ever hear back?
Yeah. I mean, they said that they were going to listen to it, but if they did, sorry. Soz about that, but here you go. I don't know what the fuck that was. It's fucking warm. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Top rate it out of 10. TUC.
No. We'll be back hopefully in 2 weeks. That's the plan. We'll be talking again about something to do with trade unionism. We're gonna, as I say, continue try to reach out to people, other organisers in trade union spaces, to see if they want to come and talk about the specific activism that they're doing. If any other big things come up, we'll probably pivot an episode to talk about them, like we did today with the TUC and their £15 minimum wage petition. Other than that, as I said last time, if you've got anything that you want to hear about trade unions, if you want us to talk about specific unions, if you want us to talk about union elections and standing for your branch and doing like national organising rather than just branch organising, that's something that I'm happy to talk about as well. Other than that, see you soon.
Wubba-lubba-dub-dub.
No, absolutely not.
Oh my god.
Solidarity forever.